All right, here we are, Todd Nowensky from Sutton Group Security Real Estate, here with another edition of Coffee Chats and Market Stats, and very excited to introduce Mark Bowden to our podcast today. He is a world-renowned language expert, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and TED Talks keynote speaker as well. I could go on and on, so I'd love to jump right in, and maybe you can introduce yourself, Mark.
Yeah, so Mark Bowden, expert in human behavior and body language, help people all over the world to stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they communicate, including some of the leaders of the G7.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my little spiel for you.
Pretty amazing. So, I think people were probably wondering, okay, so what's the tie-in with communication and real estate? I mean, this is a real estate, podcast. We focus on clients and realtors and market stats and stuff like that. I just thought that, first of all, from my experience and my opinion, communication is probably one of the most important elements in creating a good relationship with a client. And, as far as gaining trust, aligning goals, ensuring, connection, I think communication really is kind of the number one piece. So you typically talk with G7 leaders, and you're training like CEOs and stuff like that. And how can we bring that back to the everyday kind of lifestyle of people that are selling their homes or looking to buy a home or something like that? Like, how do you tie your research and your science in with something like that?
Sure. Well, so I think the first thing to consider is, if communication weren't potentially the most important part of being able to attract a client, sell something to a client, sell something on behalf of a client, all real estate would be is just putting up you wouldn't even need a photograph. All you do is just somehow go, I have stock.
Like inventory.
Like, yeah, you just do that. I have inventory.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't even ask, so what does it look like, or what, how many, expand on that. They just go, yeah, give me one.
Right.
Give me whatever you think is.
So you're
I
saying,
should have.
so because communication is so important, they want to get the specifics of the property and why that area is good, that type of thing.
Yeah, okay, so let's go, hang on though, I need to know how many rooms, or if it's commercial, what's the size, and what's the floor made out of, will it house the machinery that I have, and okay, well then all we'd have is, look, here's the building, here's the details of it, and that would be enough, wouldn't it?
Right.
You just have some kind of site where you put that on. I mean, you've got the MLS here, haven't you? So look, essentially, if selling or buying a property isn't about human relationships, all you do is put stuff on the MLS and it sells. So is that true? Is that what happens?
No, absolutely not.
All right. So what actually happens then?
Yeah, I think it all starts with someone either having a need and reaching out and trying to find someone who they feel confident can address that need, or for me as the kind of real estate expert to communicate the benefits of something that's available. It's one or the other, or both.
Right. So ultimately, look, I go, okay, I think I need 4 bedrooms and I need a driveway, and ultimately you don't go, oh, okay, Mark, I'll go and get that.
Yeah.
You go, what question would you actually ask me? If I said to you, I said, here's what I need, Todd, it's 4 bedrooms and a driveway.
The first question would be, what area?
Oh, okay, right. So this feels like, this kind of questioning is data-based questioning. It's like, what area? Okay, well, Rosedale, Forest Hill, the Annex. I'll name some place. But this is still data. I mean, you could put that on a listing. So what's the next question? If I say, if you're drilling down into that, what's the next question?
It would be more data-driven items, like what kind of budget do you have?
Right. Okay. So I could tell you, I think anything the size that I'm needing probably going to be 3 million and above, or something, or something like that. But we're still in data. We could still put that down. At what point does the communication get to a point where you couldn't list that element? I would say it comes to a point of evaluation. Like, you know, what do you like most about the annex? What do you like most about, you know, why Rosedale? Why? What do you like most about that?
Yeah.
That's not something that can be listed in any way. That's something that has to be got out of. And you know, how do you feel about where you are already? Because here's the thing: if I'm going, hey, I need somewhere else. One of the first questions is, well, what's wrong with the place that you have? Like,
What's your motivation for moving?
Right, exactly. So that a listing fits my motivation. I mean, I can't tell that from a listing. What I need is somebody who has experience in that. And then I've got to go, do I trust your experience over that person's experience over there? Yeah. Now, yeah, sure, you can put your face on a roadside bus stop. And I might go, he looks the kind of guy that I might trust. But in the end, it's like, I don't know. Right. I'd have to speak to the person. So that bus stop may well tells me this is my territory. Right. I mean, it literally marks out the literally puts your face, your body in that territory. But ultimately, I've got to.
That's one of the first steps.
That's the first step to go. Well, who's in my territory? Who thinks they own this manor?
So that's just the starting point for your analysis that you're going to go through.
Right, and I'm not saying that the photograph doesn't do so, because if you don't. If I'm not attracted to you in some way in the photograph, and I don't mean like attracted to you like you look beautiful kind of thing. It's got to go, okay, that's a friendly face, or okay, that's a face that would get me a good price. I mean, it might be.
It depends what your motivation is.
What my motivation is.
Exactly.
So it's got to hook me in some way. But then, if we don't sit down and have this conversation, and I go, you know what, I feel comfortable. Not only do I feel comfortable, I feel looked after. I feel like that person has my back. Well, I don't know. You've never sold anything for me before. You've never bought anything.
Exactly.
This is all.
And that's reality.
This is, absolutely. This is all me placing a bet. And ultimately, what our non-verbal communication does is your non-verbal communication helps me judge whether I could take a bet on you or not. It's my system whereby I make judgments about you in the future. Will you be good for me in the future, or will you be bad for me in the future? And you know, a roundabout way of getting there. That's why body language is so important. Non-verbal communication is so important, because it helps me make a bet on you.
So we're now getting into an area that I'm really fascinated by. So I had mentioned to you before that I spent some time living in Japan. And pretty amazing experience. It was pretty intimidating when I first went out there. I mean, I studied a little bit of the Japanese, so see if I could, communicate at the basic level when I first got there. But I have to say that that's where I started to realize the importance of nonverbal communication. Right. So literally from just landing and trying to make my way around and try and engage with the everyday needs of life, going into a convenience store and trying to communicate to the person at the cashier what I want to buy. Right. And I found out that so much of what I did was I accomplished so much with body language, gestures, facial expressions, because I didn't know the language. And I'm sure you've had opportunity to travel to different places in the world, and you know exactly. Okay, so there you go. So I realized the value of that nonverbal communication and the power of it as well. I mean, when you don't have the language, what do you have to fall back on?
Well, look, there's some nonverbal communication. There's some body language which is consistent across the planet, and we know there are essentially 7 expressions of feeling which are universal. So an example of that would be the smile. The smile that says, "This is good now." In Japan, they will smile the same as us. Now, do they smile as much as us, or do they smile at the same things that we smile at, or do they smile with the same people as we smile? No, that's a cultural difference. But the smile is the same, because we'll often hear people go, oh, you know, in that country, and I'm not talking about Japan here, but they'll go, look, in that country, they don't smile as much. It's like, they do, but not with you, or not where you were. Or you weren't allowed into the place where they laugh or cry, or that wasn't, you weren't accepted at that point.
Yeah.
But so essentially, all of this to say, there are some universals which we can all communicate with facially.
Yeah.
And then there's some very basic physical gestures that we make as well. Like everybody understands in every culture, a push or a pull. They understand if you are upright against gravity, or gravity is taking you down. Because there isn't a human being on the planet that isn't dealing with gravity like we're dealing with gravity. Everybody deals with gravity. Yeah. Everybody deals with the idea, no matter how mobile they are, the idea of going forwards and backwards. Yeah. Every living organism on the planet is either doing the approach or avoid response. It's how we work out, is there benefit out there, or is there risk out there? So there's some universals, okay?
Right.
And the more we understand those universals and can read those universals in everybody that we come across, the more likely we are to understand people better. Now, can we tell what's going on in their mind? Can we mind read them? No, absolutely not. Can we get closer to the truth of what might be going on inside their head? Yes. And that's what my work is always trying to do, is help other people get closer to the truth of what's going on in somebody else. Now, just to talk about Japan, I've worked in Japan. It is the most mind-blowing place. Yeah. I mean, I've worked all over the world. Yeah. And I've been to some extraordinary places, but Japan, my brain just goes, there is nothing that I can hang on to here. There are no kind of,
nothing relatable?
There's nothing relatable, but the things that are even relatable are signaled in a different way.
Oh, right.
So there's no, look, if I go to India, which is an extraordinary country, India and the UK, where I'm from, Britain, where I have had massive influences on each other. Yeah. They've been very interdependent on each other. And so our two cultures are very intertwined. So although I might not speak Punjabi, there's English words up every now and again, but also just there's cultural stuff going on, whether it's Punjabi culture that I understand because I'm British, or British culture because, obviously
they've adopted some.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two cultures were massively intertwined. Japan, no. Yeah. I mean, it's just all, and the other thing is, and maybe you experienced this, or I'll walk down the road in Japan, and you're about the same height as me, you're probably taller than me actually. So I'm just under 6 foot.
No, we're same. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just under 6 foot. Well, that's very tall. That's way above average for human beings across the planet. Way above average for Japan. So I clearly stand out. Yeah. I've got this hair. I wear stuff with a lot of color. That's like.
And that is not typical.
Oh, it's not typical. And in India, if I do that, people in India will come up to me and go, "Hey, I look at this. This is amazing."
Because they love color.
And they're like, and they'll invite me, "Come and look at this guy. Look at, I've been driven around and people have, called up their mum and go, you got to see who I've got in the back of the car. Yeah. This is amazing. Yeah. It's incredible." In Japan, I get the feeling that they're embarrassed for me. It's like you're walking down the street and like nobody's looking at you. No, it's like, I'm embarrassed for you and I'm embarrassed for myself being in the presence of, and I don't say that in a negative way. So it's just a lovely part of the culture. Yeah. Is to go, I'll just ignore that you're there because this is so out of the ordinary.
That's true. That's true.
So culture's an incredible thing. And you know, when it comes to communication, essentially what you have to be doing all the time is just holding back and suspending your judgment and listening and watching and being careful and gentle and slow around what you're doing to try and work out. Because if you rush in there, you can make some horrific mistakes and you won't notice what's going on. The other thing you can do, and I'm sure you've done this yourself, is just ask. Just go, hey, what do I do in this situation? You know, what's going on here?
Yeah, listening is obviously key too.
Listening, watching, checking out who's doing what, how slowly or quickly these things are happening. Any kind of observation where you can go, okay, that's a difference. And try and think about what that difference might mean, or ask somebody what that difference might mean. I don't know, for example, if you ever remember or been given an overpour of sake in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, the first time that happened to me, I was like, I don't know whether the person serving has had some stroke or something, and she's just, because it just keeps on pouring. And keeps on pouring and overflows into the
no,
cup.
I thought you meant something. Oh, the actual going over the top of the glass.
And
wow.
Okay.
So what happened?
So I'm in this restaurant. It's a very nice restaurant. And I'm there on my own. So I tend to, for work. I tend to travel. I'm traveling on my own.
So this is Japan. In Japan.
Japan. This is Tokyo. Very, very nice restaurant. Family owned. So the mother of the family, pretty old, as far as I can see. She starts pouring my sake. The sake is in a kind of a square. There's a cup. Inside a square box.
Right.
She starts pouring. That's great. And then it's getting to the top, and I'm thinking, well, she'll stop, or maybe I should say stop, but I don't know. So I'm like going, okay, let's just see what happens. It flows over the top and starts flowing into the box. I don't know, like, is this not, because it's going into the box, it's not going over the table. So maybe this is the right thing that should happen. But is it my job to say stop? or is it, and she's pretty old, and now I'm wondering, like, does she know what's going on? And now
maybe she's distracted.
I don't know. And now it's flowing up into the box, and now I'm going, okay, well, is it going to stop? Or is it going to go over? Well, it stops perfectly at the edge of the box. So now the cup is full and the box is full, and off she goes. And I'm like, okay, thank you very much. So I'm now like, okay, so now how do I drink this thing? How do I drink? Like, do I go like this, or do I pick up the whole thing, or do I pull that out? And if I do, which
gonna make a mess.
Well, luckily I have Google. So I'm like, what do you do if they fill your glass too much in Japan?
Obviously someone asked the same question.
Right, and so up comes this thing of, this is called the overpour. This is a tradition. It's they're saying that you're very, very welcome. and basically, and what it said was, you can pretty much deal with it any way you like. like whatever you want to do, you can go down, like, you can pull that thing out, you can do that one first or the other one first. You can do whatever you like. Anyway, all of this to say is that we're up against different cultures all the time, whether it's an actual culture, especially in Canada, here in Toronto, we've got a lot of different cultures here. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. But even then, it feels to me like, well, you were telling me your mum's from Blackpool originally, so we've got you grew up with your mum, I'm presuming, so you inherited some of that culture. So we've got some strong links, but there'll still be micro cultures. There's the culture of this organization. There's the culture of the part of this organization that you're part of. Your business here. There's the culture of your specific family. So all the time, if we're to get on, I've got to take it slow to go, okay, what happens in this building, in this organization? Like, how does that work? So culture is around us all the time.
That's amazing. So the one thing that I keep thinking of is you typically, focus on, these very high profile individuals that you train, you provide, your expertise to these, G7 leaders and CEOs of these world-class organizations. How, if we were to just say, well, in terms of your objective when you move into a client relationship like that, how would you apply your expertise in kind of the world that I live in? I'm a realtor. I deal with clients every day, and I'm focusing on trying to make connections with people and engage them and build confidence with them. So in terms of your science, I keep thinking, is it context? Is it content? And as well as body language. Does body language need to match up with the content? Because sometimes I'm presenting stats to clients, or I'm presenting the benefits of something to a client, or whatever it is. Are they analyzing what I'm saying with my body language at the same time?
Let me give you a really quick example of that. Could you give me a stat which is true today around real estate?
Yeah, well, I would say that, the market has increased between last year and this year by, say, 5%.
Okay.
In price.
Okay, so market has increased between this year and last year, 5% in price. Now, if I say to you, if I drop my hands down here and I say to you, so Todd, the market has increased from last year to this year, 5%. Yeah. Or if I say to you, Todd, from this year to last year, from last year to this year, the market has increased 5%. Or if I say from last year to this year, the market has increased 5%. Or if I say from last year to this year, the market has increased 5%.
Right.
What do you think of this 5%?
I'm skeptical of whether they're being accurate or honest.
Okay.
One or the other.
But the stat is true.
Yes.
And still in your mind.
Yeah.
Like you even know the stat is true, and you're even doubting it.
Right.
So now what if you didn't even know it's true? You even know it's true and you're doubting what I'm saying. Yeah.
I would question that person whether they're truly being honest with me or being forthcoming with everything.
Right. So now you're going to start questioning me, and ultimately I needed to get past this 5% to get onto some stuff that would be helpful for you. The 5% was just to give you a framework that we could get onto the important stuff, because you could read that 5% in a paper somewhere. You can get that data anywhere. We just needed to get past that.
Yeah.
I deliver. Look, Todd, the market has increased 5%. You can't even get past that. So you're going, well, Mark, what do you mean by it? Like, what do you mean by 5%? Like, well, 5%. Like, you're stuck on this.
Yeah.
Because my gestures alongside that, or my gesture plane, the height that I was gesturing, was masking my mouth. Yeah. When insufficient data, you default to negatives. This was giving you insufficient data around what's happening in my face and my mouth. And so you started questioning the data. The value of the data. Now, what about this 5%? Market's increased 5%, Todd, from last year to this year.
Yeah, that I think it shows lack of confidence.
Okay, and we needed to get past that number so that I could get you. So lack of confidence. I might pick that up in you, and I might think to myself, I don't think he's confident in these numbers. So I said, Todd, I just want to go back over these numbers with you, because we are very, very confident. These are stats that we get from the real estate board and from the industry. Yeah. And so we know that from last year to this year, stats have got the numbers have gone up 5%. You can be confident in that. We're confident in that. Yeah. So did that make that better because I added the words in confident and?
No, it's completely.
It's made it even worse, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Now, if I go to you, look, Todd, we can be really confident that numbers have gone up 5% from last year to this year. Very confident, 5% growth on values. Yeah. So how are you feeling about that?
Seems a bit aggressive.
Yeah, okay, because I'm right up in your, like these are close to your eyes now. I mean, I felt buoyant about it. I felt confident, but you're kind of backing off me. If I do open palm gestures at navel height just here, and I go, Todd, we're really confident about the numbers at the moment. 5% growth from last year to this year. Good numbers, very confident about that. How do you feel about that one?
More comfortable.
Yeah, more comfortable. And so that's what we call congruence, where if I want you to feel comfortable with the numbers being accurate, I'm going to do open palm gestures at exactly navel height. If I want you to be worried about those numbers, I'll drop my hands down by my side. Yeah. Oh, you know what I could do is look. We've seen, you know, from people that we're selling on behalf of a 5% growth in the valuation of their properties. Now, look, you've probably heard from competitors of ours. You may have heard 10%. You may have heard 15%. I don't know what they've been telling you.
Interesting.
What we assure you of is that 5% that we have, it's true, it's accurate, and that's what we're looking for you in the market.
What does that body language signal to me?
Well, I mean, what did you
tell me about your competitor?
What did you feel about my competitor? Because they got better numbers. I said they've been telling you 10 and 15.
I mean, are you a little bit concerned about your competitors when you're putting your arms down there?
Well, how did you feel about my competitors and their numbers?
I think that was probably not an accurate stat.
Right. So you're now questioning.
That they say that.
That they say that.
Okay, so you use that type of body language
that in order to help you be skeptical about my competitors.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Look, you know, and I might say, look, they're undoubtedly delivering to you some very, very big numbers, and that's exciting. We got to be calm, we've got to be conservative, and we've got to be accurate about this because we've got to go into this market calm, accurate, conservative about it, so you can do the right deal, not the extraordinary deals that you might be being promised right now. Yeah, but look, it's up to you. You know, it's your choice. When you think about us, I just want you to know that we're being clear about the numbers.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I always. So even going back to my days back in Japan, I've always heard different stats. This is a program about stats.
Yeah, sure.
So I was always under the impression that roughly 70% of communication is nonverbal. What's your take on that? Like, what's the real stat?
So the stat that tends to come up a lot is the 93% stat, often called the Moravian myth.
Okay.
Not that Moravian scientist from the west coast of America created this myth. He actually had some good science around this, but it got mythologized. Look, here's what often you'll hear people say. 93% of all communication is nonverbal. Nonsense. Complete nonsense. How would you read a book? How would have we been having this conversation?
Right.
Because we've got through a lot of words, and our words were really helping us understand some really high concepts. You know, we've been talking in language about language. For example, that you can't do that non-verbally. Body language will not allow you what's called displacement, which is to shift time, and also self-reference, which is to communicate with its own language about its own language. You can't give somebody a nod about a nod that you're going to make in the future. It's impossible.
Right.
Okay, so here's what Moravian actually came across. So I'm going to précis his science, but it's accurate what I'm saying. In order for you to make assumptions that you feel are accurate about my feeling and intention towards you, you're mainly looking at my body, you're partially hearing the tone of my voice, and what I say doesn't really matter that much to you. But that's about feeling and intention. So in order for you to go, you know what, is Mark happy or angry right now? You are mainly looking at my non-verbal communication.
Yeah.
You're partially looking at hearing the tone of my voice. And whether I say I'm angry or happy doesn't really make that much difference to you. And the other thing that Morabian found out was
That's
if the
amazing.
words are very, very different from the body language. So if I say I'm happy, but my body language and my tone of voice for you seems to be angry, you bias towards the body language being accurate, not the words accurate.
And so that's where they come up with that high percentage.
Well, it's where they come. It's where it gets mythologized, because some people went all communication. What Morabian was talking about was the communication about feeling. So how do we understand how somebody else is thinking and feeling? Or this is actually called theory of mind. How do you get your theory about what's going on in my head? You're not that concerned about what I'm saying. You're very concerned about what my body's doing. You're partially concerned about my tone of voice. What I say doesn't make a lot of difference until what I say is very, very different from what I'm doing. And then you bias completely to what I'm doing, being for your accuracy about the theory. Now, you can still get it wrong. You can still go, Mark was really angry about that. And somebody comes to me and says, well, apparently you were very, very angry. And I was like, no, I wasn't angry at all. Like, you can still get it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. But you're more likely to bias towards what you see than what you hear in language.
Interesting. So I think we should probably wrap up pretty soon, but I've got a couple of fun kind of questions for you. So first question is, when I first met you, I asked you this, and I really liked the response. It was not an intuitive response for sure. I asked you, are good communicators born that way? And do you feel that's the case?
No. Yeah. Really good communicators, it's learned behavior. Now, they may have started off somewhat better than others, but they don't have to. Like, really good communicators can be terrible communicators in the first place, but they're very good at learning and they have good teachers. People who look like they might be natural at it, they've learned it. You just don't know how they learned it, or maybe they don't even know how they learned it. Right. But it's all learned behavior, especially those that are able to communicate across all kinds of boundaries of, like, I'm in a different culture, or I'm with a stranger, or I don't know what's going on here, or I've never even communicated this thought before. Those people are using learnt behaviors because we have a natural ability to be able to communicate well with those who are closest to us, because that's essential.
We understand them.
We understand, it's essential. How essential is it for me to be able to communicate well with you? I mean, we're relative strangers. We know each other better now, but we're relative strangers. It's not that essential. So now this takes effort. Yeah. When things take effort, the brain kind of goes, is there a lazier way to do this? And it soon works out, yeah, there is. Just don't bother. Just keep on communicating to people you already know. Don't try and build your life or your business outside of the people that you already know. Well,
so kind of a complacency type.
Complacency, and also you're getting fed enough by friends and family. Well, in your business, you ran out of friends and family ages ago. And it's not that friends and family won't keep coming back to you and go, hey, I got a house, or I got a...
True.
Of course they'll come back to you. But that's not a business.
Yeah, exactly.
You're waiting around. I hope my brother sells his house pretty soon because I need to eat. It's like, you got to find strangers. Yeah. I mean, you do in your business mark out certain territories. Right. But even especially you're going, hang on, I can't just live off that territory. I got to go out and find new territories that maybe people haven't explored so much, or I got to take over somebody else's territory. I got to move in on that, because I got to, not only are my friends and family not selling their stuff, but I got to feed them as well. Like, I got a responsibility to feed them as well. So So you have to, venture outside that, and that takes extra effort, and the extra effort is learnt, I would say. And by the way,
makes perfect
it's
sense.
Teachable.
Yes.
As well, it's a system.
I mean, hence
It's
that's
teachable.
why you do what you
That's
do.
why I've got a job. I mean, if it wasn't teachable,
Yeah, that's.
I wouldn't be sitting here.
No one would see the
I'd
benefit.
have to be doing some other job.
Yeah.
But I train people in communication. Why? Because it's absolutely learnable.
Wow. Okay, so what's in your mind a big mistake that people typically make when they're trying to communicate? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, giving up early. Giving up early. Going, well, that didn't work.
Right.
So go back and try again. Go back again. Well, and then they'll go, well, should I change the way I was doing it? No. It's like you've got to deliver the same communication again in the same way.
Yeah.
You're like the third time they may even go, oh, who are you?
Yeah.
Right. And it takes that long.
So repetition?
Repetition. Repetition. And not repetition with like, let's change a bit and see whether the change works. Repetition of the same thing through the same channel to the same people. Because it's going to take a bunch of times until people go, oh, you're in the room. Oh, I didn't even notice you the first two times.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal. No, it's just like they've got a radar on, and if they're not, and they're not tuned in to you, and it's got to make enough of a difference in their life that they go, there's something keeps happening over there. We've got to tune into that and see what that is.
Okay. Finish off on one interesting point.
Yeah.
So I think about all the different, famous people in history that I found very inspiring in terms of, my opinion on whether they could communicate well or not. And I always keep coming back to one.
Okay.
I'd love your opinion on this. I'm going to give you mine, and then I'll ask you what yours is, or who yours is.
All right.
So, Obama.
Oh yeah.
Barack Obama.
Yeah, very good.
So I was so inspired by him when he was going through his presidential candidacy, and then he was able to, when he finally became the president, his speech was just, obviously, he's going to have people to help him write speeches and stuff like that, but the way he delivers them is, I found, is so inspiring. It's because the content so clearly matches with his body language. That was my personal kind of, take on it, and I'd love your opinion on that.
So the thing that I like most about Obama is that he speaks at almost one word a second. It's really slow.
Oh, okay.
And every word has weight. Every word has meaning. And at the time when he was going for just the candidacy, he was up against Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton speaks at around this kind of tempo. So she's going at this rate. And, could have exactly the same speech, could have exactly the same policies, but it's much harder to follow. The moment you slow it down, the moment everything has this weight, people can follow. And in order to be a leader, you must be followable. Right. Now, I'm not saying, if I had a conversation with you at that speed, after a while,
it's not practical.
No, it's like we're not getting out enough meaning.
Exactly.
Now, it just so happens that Obama has a great writer, had a great writer at the time, top TV writer.
Right.
And what he was getting across was quite poetic. It's idealistic, poetic.
Yeah.
And so you need time to imagine the things that he's putting forward. And he doesn't have a huge amount of ideas that he's getting across. He's got, 1, 2, 3 ideas that he's putting forward. So I would agree. Great.
So he would be one of yours?
Great communicator. Yeah, I think in terms of that ability to be followable, great communicator. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to sit here and chat all day. This has been just an amazing opportunity to have this conversation with you, and very enlightening. And I want to thank you very much, Mark, for coming in and sharing your thoughts on coffee chats and market stats. And I'm going to put some links up on the podcast so people can check you out and follow some of your new initiatives. And I know you've got some new things coming down the pipeline too. So thank you very much,
Thanks so
Mark.
much, Todd.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.